I'm Dean Braxton, and I have a story of dying and going to heaven. I was working in the Seattle area, working for the county there, King County, and I was a supervisor in the probation department of the juvenile courts.
A man from Seattle, working as a supervisor in the Juvenile Probation Department for King County, experienced an event on May 5th, 2006 that would change his life forever. Known for his dedication to helping troubled youth, he often joked that he would work until the day he died, an unexpectedly prophetic statement. On that day, he developed a severe kidney stone. Having dealt with kidney stones before, he assumed he could handle the pain. But this time was different. The pain became unbearable, forcing him to go to the emergency room. Expecting the usual treatment of morphine and pain relief, he was shocked to find out he also had a kidney infection. Doctors administered antibiotics and scheduled a routine procedure to break up the stones. What could possibly go wrong? The operation went smoothly, but something sinister was happening in his body. The antibiotics hadn't been effective, and when the stones were broken up, the infection spread into his bloodstream, causing sepsis and multiple organ failure. He was clinically dead for an hour and 45 minutes. During this time, he had an extraordinary experience. As a born-again Christian, he wasn't afraid, believing that he was headed to heaven. He described the sensation of leaving his body, soaring through the hospital, the sky, and even outer space at an unimaginable speed. He recalled the Bible verse, "To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord." Upon arriving in heaven, he was overwhelmed by a sense of peace and belonging. Everything, from the trees to the flowers, seemed to welcome him. The greatest desire he felt was to meet Jesus Christ face to face. As he walked through a forest, the trees parted, revealing a clearing where he finally saw Jesus. Overcome with emotion and gratitude, he fell to his knees, gazing at the feet of Jesus, and began to thank him, a lifelong wish fulfilled in that moment. Time and again, he realized that the only reason he was in heaven was because of Jesus' sacrifice. As he looked up, he felt an overwhelming love radiating from Jesus' entire being. When their eyes finally met, Jesus gazed at him with unconditional love as if he had never left. The depth of love and forgiveness in Jesus' eyes was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was truly profound. In that moment, it struck him. When Jesus says he forgives, he truly forgets. The Bible speaks of this in Hebrews chapters 8 and 10, and now he had experienced it firsthand. He felt an eternal sense of being, knowing that while his body had died, the true essence of who he was would never die. After this powerful realization, Jesus spoke to him and said, "No, it's not your time. Go back." The words were so direct and matter-of-fact, yet he was surprisingly okay with them. Instead of retracing his steps through the forest, he found himself soaring above it. Flying wasn't the right word. It was more like he was simply where he wanted to be, effortlessly. As he reached the place from which he knew he would leave, there wasn't a door or any physical barrier, just a sense that the next step would take him out of that realm. His body wasn't ready yet, and he was actually joyful to have more time in heaven. Turning back toward the forest, with Jesus still on the other side, he saw something mesmerizing. Moving to the left, he witnessed creation in a way that was overwhelmingly beautiful. The mountains looked like rolling ocean waves, vibrant and full of life. It felt like he was meant to stay and experience this forever. Eventually, he returned to Jesus, approaching from a different angle. As he bowed before him again, Jesus spoke some more. His light, so brilliant and loving, wrapped around him, filling him with warmth and peace. Once more, Jesus said, "No, it's not your time. Go back." He flew over the trees again, reaching the edge where he sensed he would step back into his body. But again, he realized his body wasn't ready yet. He explored even further this time, veering to the right, where he encountered vibrant blue waters and rivers full of life. The colors were more vivid than anything he had ever seen on earth. For the final time, he returned to Jesus, but this time he saw his family. His grandmother Mary stood at the front of a group of relatives spanning generations. The joy and love radiating from them was palpable, a pure reflection of the heavenly relationships they shared. Their presence confirmed that they had been there all along, but this time he truly focused on them, feeling an indescribable connection. Seeing his family in such a state of happiness and unity was a revelation in itself. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, please click the Super Thanks button below. Your support is more than just a donation. It helps us continue sharing the transformative message of Jesus. Jesus looked at him once more with loving eyes and said, "No, it's not your time. Go back." As if all of creation paused to acknowledge the moment, he felt like a soldier receiving an order, ready to obey. Just before he left, his grandmother spoke, "Bring as many of us back with you as you can." Her words deeply resonated with him, underscoring the importance of sharing the love and reality of heaven. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. Returning to his body was a mix of emotions. He re-entered to find the medical staff stunned as his heart monitor started to beep again. The jarring contrast between the peace of heaven and the chaos of the hospital room was overwhelming. Physically, he was weak and needed time to heal, but spiritually, he felt completely renewed. His experience had transformed his entire outlook. Now, he lives with a greater sense of purpose, knowing that life is fleeting and every moment matters. He strives to love deeply and share God's message of love, valuing each relationship with newfound appreciation. Seeing animals and other beings in heaven, vibrant and full of life, was an incredible part of his experience. It wasn't just humans. All of creation seemed to thrive there. He was amazed at the sheer number of animals, both familiar and unknown, seamlessly integrated into the landscape. Each creature had a special place, living in perfect harmony with one another and their surroundings. This showed him that God's care extends to all of his creation, not just humans. Although his focus had been on Jesus and his family, the presence of the animals was undeniable. Filled with joy and peace, they seemed to be praising God in their own way, contributing to the heavenly symphony of harmony. Heaven's beauty defied earthly description. The colors were more vibrant than anything on earth, and the light was warm and inviting, never harsh. Everything, from the trees and flowers to even the inanimate objects, seemed to possess life, existing in a state of perfect harmony, free from decay or imperfection. It was beauty beyond imagination. One of the most profound moments came when Jesus imparted knowledge directly into his mind and spirit. It wasn't through words, but through an immediate understanding. He suddenly knew things about God, heaven, and life that he had never grasped before. While some of this knowledge faded when he returned to his earthly body, the essence of it stayed with him, profoundly changing his perspective. Among the insights gained was a deeper understanding of God's love. What he thought he knew paled in comparison to the overwhelming love he felt in heaven. He also learned more about the nature of eternity, the importance of earthly choices, and the reality of spiritual warfare. These concepts were difficult for the human mind to fully comprehend, but he knew their significance. Perhaps most importantly, he became more aware of the spiritual forces at play in the world, both good and evil. This realization reinforced the need for prayer and the importance of putting on the full armor of God, as described in the Bible. His perspective on life was forever changed. Death was no longer something to fear, but a transition to something infinitely more beautiful. While he wasn't in a hurry to die, he understood that God had a purpose for him on earth, and he was determined to fulfill it. The thought of returning to heaven when his time truly came brought him peace. Time on earth now seemed fleeting compared to the eternal present of heaven, making life's struggles feel small in comparison. This understanding deepened his awareness of how he spent each moment, knowing that everything held significance in the light of eternity. In that moment, he gained a deep understanding of its eternal significance. Seeing unexpected faces in heaven reshaped his view on salvation. He became less judgmental, realizing that God's grace and mercy reach far beyond human comprehension. Salvation, he learned, isn't about rigidly following rules, but about accepting Jesus and his sacrifice. He stopped making assumptions about anyone's spiritual state, knowing that only God truly understands a person's heart. His sense of purpose on earth grew stronger after hearing his grandmother's message, "Bring as many of us back with you as you can." He felt a profound responsibility to share his story and help others grasp the reality of heaven and God's love. Every day became an opportunity to live with the awareness that our earthly actions have eternal consequences. His relationships with others transformed dramatically. He began to see each person as deeply loved by God, which made him more patient, compassionate, and eager to share the love he had experienced. He also placed greater value on his family relationships, understanding their significance both in this life and in eternity. The feeling of being welcomed in heaven was unlike anything on earth. He had often felt out of place in life, but in heaven, those feelings vanished completely. Everything around him conveyed a profound sense of belonging and acceptance. That overwhelming love left a lasting impression on him. Heaven also changed his view of the physical body. While our bodies are important, they are temporary vessels for our eternal spirits. In heaven, he felt more authentically himself, making him less concerned with physical appearance and more focused on nurturing his spirit. Though his experience was deeply personal, he sensed that everyone in heaven shared the same joy, peace, and love. Each person experienced perfect joy while being united in worship and love for God. Returning to earth was difficult. Heaven's beauty made him reluctant to leave, but he felt a divine purpose in being sent back, which gave him peace about his return. His life on earth now feels like a mission to share his heavenly experience and help others prepare for eternity. Worship took on a new meaning after his time in heaven. There, worship was a constant state of being, filled with pure joy and love. This new understanding made him approach worship on earth with deeper enthusiasm and awareness, reflecting the heart's truest intentions. His perspective on work and daily activities also shifted. He saw every task as an opportunity to bring a piece of heaven to earth, approaching them with the love and joy he had felt in heaven. This made him more intentional with his time and resources. He gained a deeper understanding of prayer, seeing it as a vital connection between heaven and earth. Although he didn't witness specific prayers being answered, he knew that God was intimately aware of and involved in people's lives, which deepened his trust in God's presence and guidance. His experience deepened his appreciation for prayer. He also saw angels in heaven and understood their purpose, constantly engaged in worship and carrying out God's will. This gave him a greater understanding of the unseen spiritual forces at work around us. His time in heaven also transformed how he related to non-believers. He felt a stronger urgency to share his faith, but he did so with patience and love, knowing that everyone's spiritual journey is unique. Rather than pushing others toward faith, he aimed to gently invite them. He gained new insights into free will and God's sovereignty, realizing that they work together in ways that are beyond human comprehension. God's love allows us to make real choices, even when they lead to suffering, but He is always working to bring good out of every situation. Though he didn't encounter evil in heaven, he came to understand its nature by contrast. The overwhelming goodness and love he experienced there highlighted the stark reality of evil on earth. This reinforced his sense of duty to bring God's light into the darkness. His near-death experience completely erased his fear of death. Now, he views death as a beautiful and welcoming transition to something far greater. While he's not in a rush to leave this life, he faces his eventual passing with joy, knowing what awaits him. The core message he shares is that God's love surpasses all understanding. Heaven is real, more beautiful than we can imagine, and our earthly choices and actions carry eternal significance. What matters most is having a relationship with Jesus, not living a perfect life or following every rule. In the end, he realized that while his experience was profound, the central story is God's love for humanity. He hopes his story encourages others to seek God and live with an eternal perspective, reflecting on life, death, and what comes after. If you've made it this far in the video, you might be interested in our exclusive membership area. This is where we release special videos that can't be shown to the general public. As a member, you'll be the first to see everything, learning truths we can't reveal anywhere else. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, click the Super Thanks button below. Your support isn't just a donation. It's a blessing that helps us continue sharing the transformative message of Jesus. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.